Hey guys, my name is Frederick Afrifa. I am a full-time speaker and I make these videos so you can become a full-time speaker as well without having to pay thousands of pounds for courses that are nonsense. Today I'm going to be speaking about one of the things that I get asked the most. How much should I charge for my services? I'm going to cover how to go from a free talk to paid talks, how much you should charge for your first paid talk, how you can keep increasing your fee, and how you can maximize from each engagement that you have. So let me start from the beginning. If you haven't spoken before, you're not going to get paid to speak on a regular basis. It might happen once in a while, and if that's happened, that's great, but it's not going to happen on a regular basis. The first thing you need to do is secure free speaking engagements. These free speaking engagements are an opportunity for you to, one, practice your talk, two, get some testimonials that you can leverage at a later date. Big caveat to this. Black History Month isn't the time to do free talks. Collect your money. If you are a speaker and you are a ethnic minority, or should I say global majority, on Black History Month, collect your coins. That's not the time to practice, okay? Big caveat. Back to the regular program. If you're someone who's done a number of free talks, whether you've been invited on a panel, you've spoken at a few schools, and you think, okay, how am I going to turn these free talks into paid talks? Or how many free talks should I do? Then this is your answer. I think you should do 10 free talks as a maximum. Why am I capping it to 10? Because some people get lost in doing these free talks. And I know people that have been giving free talks for years. And at some point, you've got to ask yourself, why am I not getting paid for this information when other people are? So if you've done 10 free talks, then it's time to monetize. 5 to 10. Between 5 to 10 free talks, then it's time to monetize. If you haven't got paid to speak before, the first thing I want you to do when someone asks you to speak is to simply ask them, what is your speaker budget? That question is going to make you a lot of money. I have a friend who was actually getting paid to speak. The highest she had gotten paid was £500. And when people asked her, what's your fee? She would say £500. And I said to her, no. Start asking them, what is your speaker budget? And she did that. She got an inquiry from a conference. They said, what is your fee? She said, well, what's your speaker budget? What are you working with? And they said, look, we don't really want to go above 4K. And her mouth dropped. Because in that moment, she would have typically said, my fee is £500. But by simply asking the organizer, what is your budget? They were able to tell her the budget was £4,000. And that was her highest, or that still is to this day, her highest paying gig. Not everyone is going to tell you their budget, and not everyone knows what their budget is. But that question is always well worth asking, especially if you're brand new and you have no idea how much you want to pitch yourself for, how much you want to charge. Because once you get paid for a certain amount, then that can be your new normal. So the first thing, if you haven't been paid to speak before, is you're going to ask the individuals, what is your budget? Now, some people come back to you and say, well, we don't know. How much do you typically charge for these things? And in that moment, I want you to tell them that it depends on the outcomes that they are looking for. Try and get more information out of them. Why is that important? If people want you to come in just to entertain the crowd, then you know that they're not putting much value on this slot. If they're asking you to come in to motivate people, to inspire people, to drive change, then you need to start asking them, so what would that change mean to you? These are really important questions to ask the client before you give them a price, because that justifies your price. If you're going in to speak to 200 people, even if it's just in a school, and they want you to change the behavior of 200 students, how much is that worth? That's probably worth a lot more than what you're currently charging. Now, what I did is at a starting point, especially because I was speaking in schools, is I said £100. Okay? If you haven't been paid to speak before, a starting price is £100. What I want you to do following that £100 is increase the fee by £100 every time someone asks. And the reason why that's important is because eventually you're going to get to a stage where someone's going to say, oh, I can't really afford this. And that's how you know you're going in the right direction. If you're trying to go from speaking for free to get paid, number one, ask the organizer, what is your speaker budget? That question alone should start getting you paid. And even if they don't pay for your talk, by asking that question, typically they will at least pay for your travel, which is a step in the right direction. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to aim for a price that's twice as high as the price you were going to say. So if you're thinking £150, say £300, because you would rather start high and negotiate down than charge them a lot less than what their budget is. And number three, I want you to try and do your research before speaking to the client. Try and see what speakers they've previously had, because what you can simply do is research the speaker they've previously had. You can find their fees online, and then you can match your fees to the fees that they speak at. And that's something that I actually did. I remember when I was speaking for a really low fee, a school asked me to speak at an awards evening, and I looked at the speaker they had the year before, and I found out that their fee was £250. At the time, I had only spoken for £80. So I said 250 because I saw on a website that the other speaker spoke for 250, and they happily accepted. So that piece of research maybe took me 10 minutes, but that 10 minutes got me over £150 extra. These are the three things you can do to get you from free speaking engagements to paid speaking engagements. If you're learning anything at all that you didn't know before about the speaking industry, subscribe to the channel because we have a lot more coming. Back to the video. Another thing that I really want to speak about is that free speaking engagements should be your secret weapon. Those are the best way to penetrate new industries. I do this all the time. If I'm trying to penetrate a new industry and I can see real potential growth in this industry, I'll do a free speaking engagement. Even at my level, I do a free speaking engagement at an organization, because then they can get to know me. They can see that working with me will yield real results, and then I get a lot of work on the back of that. Or I'll work with organizations that run events, and I might speak at their event for free, but I know that in the crowd there may be many people that may want to work with me. And after my presentation, I present the offer, and then people actually happen to work with me. So a free speaking opportunity in a world where everyone wants to get paid for everything. If you go to someone and say, hey, for the first engagement, I'll actually do it for free as a proof of concept, that can be the thing that helps you penetrate the market that your competitors are struggling to get into. A question you might be asking yourself is, why free? Why not just start with something as little as £50 or £100? But I think it's important to do free speaking engagements at the start for two reasons. The first one is that you are really just practicing at the start. You are nowhere near as good as you think you are. And I say this in the most respectful way possible. The one thing that you can't get back once you lose it in this game is your reputation. And as soon as anyone pays for anything, they have a higher expectation. So even if it is just £50, for a primary school, £50 can be a substantial amount. And they're going to give it to you, and you might not necessarily deliver. That primary school has a chain of primary schools in their borough that they're in touch with. That teacher that booked you has a network of teachers that they are in touch with. And imagine the reverse though. If you go then you do it for free and they have no expectations, and because the expectations are lower, they're definitely going to be met or exceeded. They're going to happily speak about you to other organizations and to their colleagues and to their peers outside of that. And that's one of the reasons why I think you should go for free speaking engagements. And number two, when you say that you're going to speak for free, especially at the start of your journey, it's a commitment to yourself for self-improvement. Speaking for free is an opportunity to practice. It's an opportunity to invest time into the craft. And if you really want to get better at it, then you're going to have to do it a lot. It also reduces the barrier to entry, because if you say to people, I'm going to do a free talk, a lot more people are going to say yes. Whereas if you say to people, I'll charge £50 to £100, you are going to be reducing your chances of getting the opportunity to speak. If you're at a stage where you are getting paid and you want to increase your fee, there are a few things that you can do. The first thing is that no matter where you're at the moment, every 6 months, you should increase your fee by at least 10%. And a lot of the times, this is just in line with inflation, and clients will expect you to increase your fee from time to time. The second thing you can do to increase your fee is invest in yourself. Something incredible happens when you invest in yourself. During that transaction, you have an increase of self-belief, and you realize that, wow, if you have personally invested £1,000 in a program, then there's no reason why you can't be paid that amount. But before you make that investment, it might be a little bit harder to overcome that limiting belief. And the third thing you can do to increase your fee is to demonstrate a return on investment for the people that are spending money on you. So if you can demonstrate that by them spending this money, they will get more money or more opportunities or more credibility, then that will help you increase your speaker fee. Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to demonstrate more expertise, and you want to stack up your knowledge, because the more you stack up your knowledge, the more you're going to be able to charge for the information that you have. When it comes to pricing, it's really important to have flexibility. And when I say flexibility, I say it's always good to give the client some options. An example is when going to a college, I will give them the option of doing an hour, of doing a day, or doing a half day. This will give the power to the client and help them pick out any options that they may want to give you. Some industries prefer you to quote in an hour or a day rate, and others will prefer you to quote more on a half day or on some deliverables. Now, these are all things to try and discover before you give your quote. And actually, one of the mistakes that speakers often make is that people say, hey, what's your fee? And they just give them their fee straight away. But what you should try and do is a bit of a discovery. What you should try and tell the client is that the fee is dependent on what the outcome is. So it'll be interesting to hear what they're looking for so that you can actually charge them accordingly. So once you get that information, once you see what the thing that they're looking for, then you are in a much better place to charge. Another thing that I did, honestly, is I spoke to speakers that were more experienced than me. And I've been told off by my mentors a lot for charging fees that are way lower than what I thought would be right. And what often happens is that our mind struggles to go as fast as our realities. So, for example, myself, after The Apprentice, already just being on national television increases your fees. But my mind was such that, or my mind was telling me that I was still the same guy before TV, so I was charging the same prices. And it wasn't until the mentor told me, hey, you're not charging enough. And that's when I started to increase my fees. So that's when I go back to meeting individuals in your field that are doing better than you or that are ahead of you in the journey, because they can help you understand where you are and how much you should be charging. I think transparency in this field is only going to be beneficial to help us peers. So if you speak to a speaker, you should be able to ask them what their typical fee is, or you should just be able to go on the internet and look at different agencies and get a gauge of what they're currently charging. So that's it. That's all you need to know in terms of pricing. That's all you need to know to go from a free speaking engagement to a paid speaking engagement, and how to slowly increase your fee as you are speaking. Please like, comment any question that you have, and subscribe to the channel because we have way more bangers. Also, share this with that friend that wants to get into speaking. See you in the next one.